How's it going, everybody? My name is Rinzler here, back again for another video, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing another what if scenario, this time for the Cinderella movie from 1950. Cinderella is a story that I'm sure that you're all very familiar with. There are a lot of different versions of this story, but the most well-recognized version by far is the animated version that Disney made in 1950. This film is credited for saving Disney from bankruptcy following World War II. And of course, as all Golden Age Disney films did, it featured a happy ending. Cinderella loses her slipper at the ball, and luckily the shoe fits her later on, and she goes off to marry the prince and live happily ever after. But what if that didn't happen? What if for some reason Cinderella had been able to keep both shoes on when escaping the ball? Remember, she never meant to lose her slipper, so what if it didn't fall off when she was escaping? Well, without further ado, let's discuss what would have happened if Cinderella did not lose her glass slipper. This might be surprising to you, but I personally believe that the prince might have actually gotten the short end of the stick in this scenario. The prince needed the glass slipper to find Cinderella again, so the most immediate consequence of her shoe staying on would be that the prince wouldn't be able to find her. In the movie, the prince didn't accompany the Grand Duke on his search, probably because the king said it was above his station. So assuming that the same thing would apply in this timeline, then Cinderella would never be found by the prince again. Only the prince would have been able to recognize her, and even then he might not have, since she dressed so dramatically different at the ball. Remember that the king was really getting impatient about his son still being a bachelor, so he really wanted grandchildren before he died. So I think that the king would have confronted his son about his quote-unquote foolish fantasies about love, and ordered him to pick a different maiden to marry, or else forcibly marry him off to someone he thinks would be a good fit. Either way, the prince wouldn't be able to marry for love, and thus would never truly be happy. I actually think that Cinderella might have been just fine in this scenario, though. Well, possibly anyway. There are two different scenarios I can imagine occurring. One scenario where she continues to be a servant until Lady Tremaine dies, at which point Cinderella would be middle-aged, most likely, and would then probably leave home, since she was never scared of her stepsisters the way that she was of Lady Tremaine. Remember, the only reason that she stayed at the mansion to begin with is because after her father died, her stepmother still had some semblance of control over Cinderella. Thus, she grew up believing that she had to do everything her stepmom said. But her stepsisters never had that same control over her, so as soon as Tremaine was dead, I can imagine Cinderella probably would have finally gained the confidence to either kick them out or else leave home on her own. Also, the stepsisters might not have actually been around anymore by this point, since Tremaine would have likely tried to marry them off as soon as she could. You see, back in this time period, if you were unmarried at the age of 18, then you were often considered to be an old maid. So Lady Tremaine would have done all she could to marry her daughters off. So Cinderella probably would have gotten the house after Tremaine died and would have spent her remaining years reflecting on her horrible life and never truly loving again. However, there is another scenario that I think would be much better for her. In this scenario, Cinderella would have gotten a bit, well, bolder after seeing the opposite side of the world at the ball. With this newfound confidence, Cinderella would have begun to question her responsibilities and Tremaine's unmotivated hatred towards her. So Cinderella would have just left the mansion and tried to go off on her own terms, becoming a servant for another family possibly that might have treated her with more respect and actually paid her for her hard work. With the possibility of savings on the side, Cinderella might have been able to purchase a small place of her own and begun to live a much more psychologically healthy lifestyle. And who knows, maybe she might have found somebody new to love. Of course, all this is assuming that the fairy godmother wouldn't have just swooped in to fix the problem and get Cinderella and the prince together a different way. But considering that the fairy godmother didn't appear when Cinderella was being mentally abused, I really wouldn't count on it. So anyway, guys, that was what if Cinderella did not lose her slipper. In the end, I think that the prince definitely would have gotten the worst of this, but there was a possibility that Cinderella might have been better off because she might have been able to grow as a person, becoming more confident and bold, and finally finding the courage to go off and do her own thing. So even if she didn't get together with the prince, I think there's a lot of chance that Cinderella could have become very independent and grown as a person, even if she was essentially doing the same job but for a different family. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this particular what if scenario. Next time on the what if series, we're going to be looking at my favorite Disney animated movie of all time, Mulan, where we're going to be looking at what would have happened if Mulan's gender would have been discovered earlier in the film. So thank you guys for watching this particular what if scenario. If you didn't watch my previous what if video on what if Judy Hopps had accepted Mayor Bellwether's offer in Zootopia, then please go and check that out now. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up, share this video with all of your friends and family on all of your various social media platforms. Ring that notification bell and let me know in the comments down below what other what if scenarios you'd like to see me do, and let me know what you liked and didn't like about this scenario. And I'll see all you dudes and chicks in the next video.